Hello and thank you for tuning in. My name is Daniel Carrizales from stockmusiclicensing.com. So today I want to talk to you about AudioJungle rejection, the three main reasons that your tracks are being rejected on AudioJungle. When you get rejected on AudioJungle, especially if it's a hard rejection, you will get some template email which will say your music is not ready for AudioJungle or it's not commercial enough for AudioJungle and you cannot resubmit this music track. Or it might say that the production is not up to the standards of AudioJungle. Now, without going into detail, the main problem with this kind of template emails that it's not personalized, it's not based on your actual music track that you're submitting, and it's very generic, so it's very hard, but they have divided this in three main categories, and I can tell you what they are, okay? The number one reason that you're getting rejected is because of your compositions. Now, again, I know that this is a little bit vague, but composition is where it all starts, okay? So if you have a bad composition, everything else is going to just fall apart. And we can use an example as of a good film or a good movie, you know? If the storyline of this movie that we're watching or this film is really bad, it doesn't matter if the movie has very famous actors in it. Doesn't matter if it has amazing visual effects. If the storyline is bad, the movie is going to be really, really bad. So it's an analogy. It's a little bit of a weird one, but we can relate to movies. And you don't need to be an expert in movie. You don't need to be a film critic, but you can. If the storyline is not good, it's not good. All right. So the composition is crucial, and that's an easy one for reviewers to just say the composition is just bad. So the storyline is just wrong, really. And that could be as well that the melody is just they don't just fit with the actual chord progression or with the actual structure of the composition. So it just doesn't make any sense. And that could be an easy one for them to just say this music track is not up to AudioJungle, really. So composition is the number one thing, or the number one reason why you're getting rejected. Number two, after composition, is arrangement. Okay, and composition and arrangement, they're really together. They're almost like hand in hand. But really, arrangement, what it does is that it just helps the composition or the very first elements that you're introducing in the composition stage to be arranged in such a way that this storyline can be told in a very coherent way without being too repetitive or boring. So chords and melodies will blend together, and that could make it, yes, a commercial music track, because at the end of the day, this is a library that is selling commercial music. So it has to be commercial regardless of the genre that you're making. I don't care if you're doing hip hop or even if it's sad music, it has to sound in that commercial stock music slash AudioJungle quality control, really. So arrangement is something that is very, very crucial as well when it comes down to the rejection part. And with that, I can tell you what I did. That it was a mistake of mine. I will just the composition would be right, but the arrangement was lacking in elements that I will be adding to the actual composition. And one of my mistakes is that I was doing a lot of repetition of the same chords over and over again, and very little changes. So that's one of my mistakes when it came down to arrangement. All right. So number one, again, composition. Number two is arrangement. Now, number three is the production quality. And the production has everything to do with mixing and how all of the elements of the composition and arrangement are together as a whole. And you have to be at this stage, obviously, projecting the right or telling the right story in such a coherent way that it's all packaged in a very nicely sonic brand, if you will, because it's almost like it's a sonic brand, sonic identity really of your music track. So if you're doing a corporate track or a pop track or a hip hop track, it has to have all these elements that embody that particular music style, and that has to be very clear from the early stages when it comes down to the composition. Okay, and obviously in the production, we're focusing as a whole in terms of what samples are we using, what are the sounds that we're using as well when it comes down to plugins and effects as well, delays or reverb or any kind of other aspects of production when it comes down to the music. And obviously all of these elements of composition, arrangement, and production, you have to see them like separate elements, but at the same time they're all part of the same thing. Okay, so when you start composing a new music track, it really, even though you're wearing different hats as a composer, producer, or beat maker, or whatever, it all comes down under one umbrella, and it's all about story. It's all about how can you tell that storyline. And I always go back to the analogy or the example of a movie or a film or a storyline, how they tell this story. What are the camera angles that they're using, and to tell that story. So with the music, it's the same thing. What are the actual chords that you're choosing for your composition? Are these chords telling something that is sad or happy, or a little bit more intense? How are these chords being arranged as the music progress? And how the production helps tell that story in a much more pleasant way by having the proper mix of instruments, and what instruments are you choosing to tell that story. That all comes down to what elements you choose to actually focus on your storytelling, in this case the music, and how that fits in this particular library like AudioJungle. So I know it's a little bit vague, I know it's a little bit subjective, and it's not something that we can actually touch, and I'm not using here real examples either, but it all comes down to how you perceive your music, because I get a lot of messages, and people sometimes think that the problem is in the mixing stages, and it's the actual mastering that they're having problems, but really the problem is is worse than that, actually, and I don't want to be negative, but it comes down to the early stage, which is the composition. So focus a lot on the composition. Your music track should be able to tell that story with just two instruments, meaning that if you have a piano and some background strings or violins, that should be enough to tell the story of your music, or to tell the story of that music track that you want to upload to AudioJungle. Now, if you add all the other elements to that and make a full-blown production, that's all well and done, but the actual the essence of the music track should be able to hold with a very basic element, and that's where composition comes into. So it's just a thought there for you to actually put that into practice. So sometimes you might think that it's the actual mixing or the actual production, but the reality is that you have to go back and do your homework, and it all starts with the actual composition, and everything else will fall into place, everything else will make sense, and it will be easier for you to arrange that music track. So that's why when you see big artists out there doing like unplugged version, or at least back in the days when there was MTV Unplugged. I'm dating myself with this, actually. That's why when these artists will play those famous songs with just a guitar or acoustic guitar and a few acoustic instruments, it will sound very organic, but the message was still there. It's because the composition in its raw element, it will make sense. And yes, people will identify what this music track is because it's a famous music track, but it still tells the story without having the full-blown production behind it. So again, this is a very popular subject when it comes down to AudioJungle rejections. Maybe I can do more videos like this and probably use examples as well. I mean, maybe I should do another video showing examples of my own compositions. Not only that the ones that I got rejected, but actually the ones that are out there, and which I consider that they're not really up to the standards, but they're still out there. And I can show some other ones, maybe which is my latest work, which is a little bit better. You can pretty much see like, yes, okay, that song doesn't sound really as good as this music track, and why. Okay, so maybe that's something that we can do. Let me know in the comment section if that's something that you want me to put into practice, and maybe I can do a series of videos using my own music that I have on AudioJungle as example, and see like, okay, this one was accepted like a few years back, and I can bet you that if I submit that same music track today, it will get rejected because of these reasons that I'm telling you right now. Because as you know, AudioJungle keeps raising the bar higher and higher when it comes down to submissions and rejections, and the quality of the music that is being accepted there. That's it for today. Leave in the comment section if you have any questions, or if there's anything else you want me to talk about when it comes down to rejection. I know it's a little bit vague, and it's a topic that we can talk here for hours, and what makes a good composition, and what makes a good arrangement, and what makes a good production. So let me know if you would like to see more videos like this, and maybe I can do the next video using one of my songs as an example, and tell you of how can I point that finger at me, and share with you of why I think that this composition is not good, and how can it be better, and maybe we can compare it to something that I consider is a little bit of a higher standard and level, and why. So leave in the comment section, see if this is something that interests you, and leave your feedback, and maybe we can do a series of videos of rejections on AudioJungle, and maybe this is something that you can learn as well as we go along. So anyways, hope these videos find you well. Hope you guys are doing fantastic, and as always, rock and roll, and here's to your success.